Howdy, folks. This is another special episode of Anecdotal Evidence. Maybe episode 9 or 10. I'm keeping track. Not really worried about how many people like and hit this and all that, and views and stuff like that, because I'm not appealing to mainstream anything. At any rate, to get to the point, I was recently watching a video from someone on these many recent podcasters jumping on the bandwagon of everybody else. And she was talking about airplanes falling out of the sky and how there's just so many of them falling out of the sky, that what's going on with that. So it made me think. Of something that happened to me many years ago, and one of the reasons why I pretty much stopped flying. I mean, I have flown a few times since then because I'm not really afraid of flying, but I'm aware of some things which obviously a lot of people aren't. And it crosses over into all kinds of other awarenesses and stuff that's been coming out in the past decade or so, or around the turn of the century. And I guess there's some key words there. The key words are, it's about a simulation or a construct that is either at least overlaid on this reality or perhaps the entire thing. There's various different historical references, including modern literary and movie relations, which bring out these various different allegories. So if I wander all over the map, well, I'm sorry, I'm not trying to please anybody. I'm just speaking my mind and maybe even sharing some information which some people might get the benefit of. It might pique their curiosity, make them want to investigate further, and maybe even give them some understanding. So there, let's talk about allegories. First of all, let's talk about the allegory of the Matrix with Reeves. That particular movie, and even the last movie, even though some people gave it bad reviews, the allegory that exists within that movie is absolutely applicable to what we consider to be our reality. Meaning that there is a programmed reality in which most people sort of unconsciously participate in every day. In fact, every day is almost like a repetition of the day before. Particularly and this crosses over into other allegories. I'll get there in a second. Particularly in the way in which people relate in this world, like the idea of you get up in the morning, you go through these rituals the same every day, and then you go to your job, and you pretty much do the same thing in your job every day, 5 days of the week if you're lucky, and not 6 or 7 for little to no pay. We're talking about the majority of the population doing this, and there's a correlation between that aspect of what's going on and the allegory that's in the Matrix, or in other aspects that people have talked about, like the concept of the NPC, which is an allegory for people who pretty much do the same thing every day without any kind of change whatsoever all their lives, and then they die. Okay, I'm talking about NPCs. For those of you who don't know what an NPC is, it stands for non-player character, meaning those characters that you find in video games that have program responses. So if you approach them in a video game, you get to ask them questions and they give you program answers, and meaning that they don't actually think for themselves. They're running on a program, and labeling certain levels of consciousness or lack of consciousness in the general population as NPCs is an allegory for unconsciousness, literally, for people who go through the motions every day, but they don't really have any original thought or any kind of originality at all. They're all playing roles which are pre-programmed for them, and on the one hand, the idea of the program and the matrix is sort of separate from the actual reality and the simplicity of it, because it's a lot more complicated and sophisticated than the simplistic idea of the simulation, or the other word is the construct of this reality. Now, I started this off talking about airplanes falling from the sky, and I haven't deviated from the reason why I started with that, but let me continue. Let me get into some allegories, and you may make your own conclusions. Let's go. I told you the allegory of the matrix, and the idea of this reality being a simulation. Now, if you look at nature, for example, and how we relate to nature as human beings, we have these. Obviously, we're physically related to all the other creatures on this planet, and we share DNA, etc., etc., etc. And there's often been a lot of talk about the distinction between mankind and the beasts of the field. And there's various things which distinguish us, and definitely, profound differences between us and the creatures in the field. Having to do with our level of mental capacity, our ability to create art and music, for, as far as I'm concerned, the most profound separations. But there's this other thing, which is our superimposed reality, which we call civilization, the buildings, the structures, the systems, and everything else, which overlay the natural. And how we as people, we literally live in boxes with windows that we can look out the window and we can look at nature. And a part of us is attracted to the nature because there's a part of us which is originally integrated with it. And things happened which changed our relationship with nature. One of the major allegories about that is the biblical story of creation, and Adam and Eve in the garden, and how we had a certain level of innocence, and then that innocence was betrayed, and we got kicked out of the garden, metaphorically. Now it's like our origins were more integrated with the natural order of things in creation. And we got misdirected away from that, literally genetically altered and hybridized, and we had these systems put in place, which we call civilization, and all these other systems like capitalism, economics, religions, so on and so forth. In the ancient stories, the story of the Garden of Eden is sort of it's eclectic. It's absolutely related to religious concepts, but as a as a social or actual historical context, it is an allegory for the situation which I talked about. And we have an element or major elements of our reality which relates to the programming and everything else, which all has to do with what we believe. What we believe as being real is really the only criteria for defining what reality is. It's been said that reality is a subjective experience, and that is totally true. Now we have a collective agreement, subconsciously, subliminally, which is programmed into us from the beginning of being in the family, the religion, the schools, and other institutions which are part of these systems that program these patterns into us. And so we establish these common levels of agreement and belief. We agree certain things. We agree to gravity. We agree that what goes up comes down, and that's why the idea of such things as the miraculous story of Yeshua walking on water in the Bible is considered to be a miracle and not believed by many people as actually being possible, because we all believe in gravity, and that if we step out into open air, we're going to fall. I mean, that's what we believe. And pretty much most experience that people have in testing those theories proves that that's exactly what happened, because we believe it. Now, people might say, oh, well, then, all I have to do is just stop believing in these various things of reality and it will change. And that's not true, because the reality is a collective experience, because we share these beliefs. And because we share those beliefs, even if one of us is able to break free of the beliefs, like perhaps Yeshua walking on water and other miraculous acts that he is attributed to have done, that it's the collective belief still exists. And though one person may be able to defy gravity, for example, and personally I have experienced that, that doesn't change the collective agreement. So we're talking about collective agreement. So let's go back to the planes falling from the sky. Now, everybody takes it for granted that our science and our technology and everything else that we have applied into the general awareness and consciousness is what we would call real. We would say that, that the physics of jet propulsion, for example, takes an object which is basically just a big metal tube with wings on it, and gives it so much propulsion and force that it can fly through the air at 10,000 feet or more. And so we had to prove that through various different, what would you call engineering feats, starting with the Wright brothers, to prove to ourselves on a collective level that we could fly through the air in these metal boxes. And it's true. It's true, we do. We have flown through the air in these metal boxes many, many times. And so that's a collective agreement. Now, there's parts of things that we believe in, that we agree upon as part of our reality, which we have activated, we have sort of made real. But the truth is in the greater scheme of things, they're on the wrong path. They're going the wrong direction. For example, originally our integration with nature included all the things that we consider to be physics: gravity, death, all these things with that uh, we agree upon for various different reasons, and I have to insert here that one of the prime ingredients of most of these beliefs is rooted in fear. It's negative, and so we are, we're afraid of falling. So because we have this belief in gravity, which is, like I said, is pretty much, it's proven itself. So there's, it would be foolish to just blindly step out off of a cliff expecting to walk on air. That would be pretty foolish. That does not mean, however, that the basics of reality, including the physics, is not something that can't be mutable or morphable, meaning that someone like Yeshua, for example, could walk out on the air, walk on the water, defy gravity. And so the fact that 99.9% of the people, or even more, believe in gravity, it has an absolute effect on us, because our belief is the nature of our true interface with our world and reality. And that belief has been changed, it's been tweaked, it's been hijacked. What we originally had as original peoples of the earth is we had this absolute faith in our integration with it, with our integration with the earth, with the spirit, and everything else. And what we called magic was just actual using our belief in our consciousness to interface with the greater, or the actual reality of creation. And we were on a path to where all of the energies and the forces that exist on this planet, which have been examined ass backwards by what we call science, reverse engineered, what we call technology, is actually a much greater system than the systems that we are bound by. We've bound ourselves by our agreements and our beliefs with these systems. Now, I'm going to jump into some historical references, because we're still talking about allegory and metaphor. And so, in the story of the Zechariah Sitchin's story of Samaria and the Anunnaki, and how humanity, or at least one species, was manipulated by these beings to create a slave race, a workforce, and that allegorically, metaphorically happened, and it's related to the Garden of Eden and the loss of innocence, and us looking out our window at nature and really wanting to touch it and connect with it, but not being able to, because we've got this system that we believe in called civilization, socializing, all this other stuff. And it's a real dilemma. So the story of the Sumerian story and the Sumerian creation myth overlays with a whole lot of other stuff. I personally had a revelatory experience in 1985, where a lot of this, and in 1985, a lot of this information was available in libraries, perhaps, but we didn't have the internet, so it wasn't like widely discussed or available. In fact, most people just did not want to talk about it. They were all into their life in terms of getting what they could get out of it, finding pleasure, satisfaction, etc., etc., etc. So they didn't want to talk about the idea of origins, where we came from, why things happen the way they are, and why we're in this dilemma, why we have to die, why we have gravity. We have all of these different systems in place. Now, allegorically speaking, there is a belief system, an ancient religion called Gnosticism, which theoretically still exists, but the actual religion died a long time ago. So what we're talking about is people who found fragments of pieces of their information and basically built their own modern religion called Gnosticism, but it's not the same thing. But in the Gnostic original concept, the idea of the creation story also gets into the allegory of the construct or the simulation, meaning that in the story of creation, particularly in the story of Sophia, which you can find in the Nag Hammadi library, it talks about this false creation that was made by this false god called Sabaoth, and I may not be pronouncing it correctly, but who can, since it was thousands of years ago since anybody actually spoke the name. So, but this blind god, which was created by the consort of heaven, which was Sophia, this blind god created this copy of the divine reality, and called it, and it was the earth. And mankind was created in this allegorical story as a plaything of the gods, pretty much. And it's an allegory which is also historical, and it relates to the Sumerian story and other stories. It totally relates to the experience that I had in 1985 before I actually got a hold of all this other corroborating information. And so, as I just established, we have and they, by the way, in the Gnostic text, referred to what I'm calling and referring to as the matrix and the construct and the simulation as the system. Okay, so the system and the matrix and the system and matrix and the construct and the simulation are all basically related to the same concept or idea. So how does this relate to planes falling out of the sky? Well, if you consider that a significant part of reality is not real in the sense that it's all wrapped up in our belief and our collective belief, obviously it has aspects which we consider to be real. But at the same time, planes fly because we believe in the science and the technology, which is so-called proven the physics of jet propulsion, for example. And it's ironic that we believe in gravity, and we, instead of our original path, with what I would call the divine technology of creation, we deviated into these constructs, into these variations or reverse engineering of the actual creation. So we came up with science and technology, and we defy gravity through these systems and these techniques and this technology. But there's a certain amount of grace which has been granted to us because we pretty much were born ignorant and mostly die ignorant of all of the greater things that are happening inside and around us and even beyond us in this reality, in the system, the solar system, the galaxy, etc. Because we're pretty much born in fear, so we labor intensely to create buffers to separate us from our fear, even though it motivates everything we do. So the idea of flying in a plane and defying gravity in the sense that it does is a large part due to our collective belief that this is possible. And we are reaching a point in our celestial movement, the progression of the natural order, because the Creator, has given us grace and given us time and given us much information so that we can wake up from our unconscious state of repetitive behavior, which I referred to earlier as the NPCs, so that we can wake up and become aware of our actual true nature and how it differs from what we are absolutely immersed in the constructs and the systems and the matrix and the simulation of, at the very least, what we call civilization and all the systems which are integrated with that civilization. That is a fake reality. It is an imposed simulation over the top of the real creation, at the very least. So planes are starting to fall out of the sky because cracks are starting to appear in the collective beliefs, because information has come out, like the allegories of the Matrix and the revelation of the Gnostic allegory and the revelation of the Sumerian allegory and the stories. All those things have come out over the past 20 years. They were pretty much hidden and very obscure, and very few people were aware of them on any level. And so it's like, but because of that, because of the information that's come out and the perspective that it's offered for us to look at and compare and be able to imagine the ideas and the concepts of the system, the construct, the simulation, and the matrix, then cracks have basically appeared in the sphere of the influence of our collective beliefs related to gravity and everything else. So it's like there's something that a lot of people might have heard, and most people have heard the concept, the idea of Zen, which is sort of not, it's like on the verge of magical, where you can sort of dance through the construct and the system of this reality and have sort of magical things happen. It's like even to the point of what you might call defying gravity. So Zen is a way in which things work better. If you're able to do something with Zen, then it's probably going to be more of a smooth an action. Whereas if you're in a constant state of struggling, trying to force something to happen through sheer will and application of physical stuff, then it might happen, but it's going to be a struggle. Whereas Zen is more like sort of a dance with it, where you're kind of working with the elements of reality or the construct so that you can achieve a result. Well, I don't know, maybe just me personally, but I've experienced a lot of that in my younger days. In fact, until probably just the turn of the century, it seemed to be a common feature. I even took it for granted. However, after the turn of the century, and here's a key point, when those planes crashed into the Twin Towers in New York in 2001, that was a major crack right there. It was a major crack because, if you'd actually been watching it live as it happened, you would absolutely know what I'm talking about, because those of us that were paying attention saw the crack appear. And so from that point, Zen has, in my experience and opinion, is sort of left the building. It's like the grace that was given to us by God through all these thousands of years is coming to an end, because we've reached the point where we have to change. We have to re-embrace our original understanding of divine creation technology, and systematically, if not absolutely immediately, replace all the systems that we have in place, which is going to be impossible because everybody's so afraid of this and that and everything else, that making changes is just a very, very hard thing to do, and it gets forced upon us. So the ending of the period of grace that's been going on for a long time is kind of like God saying, okay, well, you've had your chance. You're not waking up, so I'm going to slap you around a little bit so you will wake up. And so the planes are going to start falling out of the sky more and more frequently, and other things are going to stop working. It's like all of the things that and some of this has to do with where modern technology is done, where they've gone from quality to quantity, so that something that would last for decades now only lasts months and years. And that's, you might say that's what's going on, and that is what's going on, but it's still part of the same ending of grace. And so it's like, at this point, we should have been investigating our natural creative technology, which some of it we understand and we have names for it, like telepathy or clairvoyance or telekinesis or teleportation. Those are all concepts and words of abilities which we have anecdotal evidence of existing within our beings, but they're stifled and they're held back by these collective belief systems, which, as I said earlier, are related and rooted in fear. Now, I just told you all this, and there's probably more information that I could give to it, and I would like to offer solutions, but the solutions are something that is not something we can do collectively, at least not right now, because the collective is hijacked and it's asleep. But as individuals, when we embrace the truth, some of which I have spoken about, and these are just my perspectives on the truth, but if we embrace the truth, then we do wake up. We become Neo in the Matrix, and we separate ourselves from the simulation. I mean, it still exists and it still has an effect on us, but the effect is absolutely proportionate to our amount of belief in it. So we need to be able to establish or reestablish our belief in what is real, rather than spinning the wheels of our time and our lives, going through these motions and this system, this matrix, this construct, and this false reality. So it's like when Yeshua said, when two or more are gathered in my name, I will be with you. Now, a lot of people just take that literally, meaning in the name of Jesus or whatever. But if you get the context of it, then it's like there was a point when Yeshua told his disciples who he was, and he said it in an allegory or a metaphor or a parable, and yeah, it's an allegory, metaphor, and he said, "I am the truth, the life, and the way. and none shall get to the Father or to heaven but by me. Now, I'm not going to break that down into understanding other than just to say that that is the name that you gather in. And then you gather two or more in the name of the truth, the life, and the way. Now, you can break down what the truth is, what the life is, and what the way is, and that's part of gathering together so that we can discuss these things and illuminate each other and grow. And through that means, we will reorient ourselves to the actual, real, natural creation and technology, and pull ourselves out of the false, the matrix. And the degree at which we're able to do that in the next few years is going to determine the amount of suffering that we all have to collectively go through in order to reach these levels of awakening consciousness. I hope I get to see it, and we're right on the verge of it. Stuff is happening, like planes falling out of the skies. Now, I'm not trying to tell people don't fly, because it's like I just flew halfway across the country just a few weeks ago, which, personally speaking, was a very frickin' unpleasant experience. It was like flying in a sardine can, and my butt hurt the whole way. So I don't recommend flying unless you're rich and you can fly first class, because the rest of it sucks. All right, at any rate. But that's the only reason I'm not going to fly again. Not because I have any kind of fear of planes falling out of the sky, even though I know they're going to. It's going to. The technology is, no matter how fast we come up with improvements, it's going to fail faster and faster and faster as the holes and the cracks in this matrix, in this system, and the construct appear. And ultimately, it's going to collapse. Everything is going to collapse because the system is dependent on us to hold it up. It's like if we step out of the system, if a whole bunch of NPCs become Neo, then the matrix becomes full of holes, and it will collapse on itself. And so this is a solution. I mean, it's an individual, and you can get together with your beloved, your friends, and your like-minded people, two or more gathered in the name of the truth, the life, and the way. And you will begin to build something on the foundations which were laid a long time ago, which we got hijacked away from, redirected away from, and all of our power was displaced with the negative or fear. That's the solution. And all of this, it's ironic, I tell you this information using the technology and the devices of the internet, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. But I also tell you that the values and the importance and the empowerment that we have given to technology, particularly the internet is a perfect example, is that and thanks to what they did with COVID, it's like everybody got this comfortable with the idea of having this in front of their face instead of a real face. And we have to, and that's part of the solution too. So we have to gather together, face to face. We need to, leave our technology in appropriate places, and I might use it to enhance our art for sure. But we need to do it, like I said, face to face, live. We need to get together, people, and we need to gather for just the natural human reasons that we need to do that, and gather in the name of the truth, of the life, and the way. And however one is comfortable to do that, as long as they and see the whole thing is truth is not singular, secular, or like boxed into a container like a book or a religion. Truth is beyond all that. Truth is part of the nature of God. Is the nature of the Spirit of the Son of God, and the life is the example, and the teaching, and so is the way. And all those things are present. They've all been given to us. We all have access to that information beyond our fear. If we can't manifest the faith to displace the fear, then we can't understand this information. All right, well, I think I got it all out pretty much. I'm sure there's more I could say, and those of you who know me know that I'm not a short-winded person. I have many, many words, and I like words. I like to express, using my language. I like my language, regardless of what people say about it. So that's my message of anecdotal evidence for the end of 2024 and the beginning of 2025. I hope that in the year to come that things are that we are enabled to do these things and to displace all the corrupt with the real, and the fear with the faith, and the empty actions of day-to-day behavior with the loving creation. And on that note, Happy New Year.